Good morning, people in the south. Good day, those who are in the east, and those who are in the west. Good afternoon, and good evening. The ones on top. And thank you again for coming back. I appreciate your time, the time that you're giving to or into growing this channel. My name is AJ Ngele, and today I'm just going to look into a little bit of environmental sector where I have once highlighted in one of the past episodes as one of the core sectors of our economy. So today I just want to emphasize a little bit more or double click on that sector a little bit for you to understand that there's a whole lot of opportunities around that sector, and you can take advantage of such opportunities in terms of innovating your solutions, coming up with innovative ideas, coming up with ways to solve the current problems that we're facing as humanity on earth. And this environmental sector is a sector where many of us tend to turn a blind eye towards, because we mostly think it's for specific people somewhere, and it's a sector where there's people who should actually come and work on these specific things, only to realize that it's a sector that involves all of us. We can all play a role. We can all play a role, in fact, into making sure that our environment, or the environment that we live in, is conducive for our lives to prevail. So, just wanna take you through. As I take you through, then we're gonna be able to pick up a couple of possible ideas, disruptive ideas that you can use to innovate and build a sustainable business out of your disruptive innovations. So the first one that I want to look into is the fact that we mostly look into bigger challenges as innovators. We look into big problems that we want to solve, and it's always advisable to start small and gradually grow until you are able to solve a bigger problem, and until you have a capacity to take on a bigger problem. So we need to avoid focusing on bigger problems as startups, and look into the bigger problems and break it down into smaller problems where we don't focus much on solving or stopping an entire global problem like global warming problem on a large scale, where you want to take the entire earth on your own. You want to take it on your own, and this is a collective. Actually, it's supposed to be a collective effort, So look into a chain of activities within the sector, and try and expand on those activities. You will definitely find a loophole somewhere, and close that loophole, and make sure that you innovate and grow from there. So it is very crucial for us to look into such opportunities and find those gaps. The process of identifying gaps and problems, and then close those gaps, initiate a process that can assist you to build traction and build towards that. So I've seen a new trend that is coming into many of our economies across the globe, whereby it looks like the future of housing or house construction across the world, it's changing. It's gradually changing. So we're going to, at some point, find ourselves at the stage or in a situation where we're no longer going or we're no longer building houses the traditional way. And if you have an ear and you have the eye, I think you'll be able to see where I'm going with this, because most of us, we were born with, or when we were born, we found houses being built the way they're being built now, and they're still being built the same way. So when I look around and I observe the trends around housing construction, there is a huge opportunity for us to innovate around construction of houses in the future. So if you look at what is happening now, there's going to be an opportunity for us or people to start looking into or to do away with the current traditional way of building houses, which in South Africa we use cement, we use concrete bricks, we use sand, we use water as well, and we use what else? We use wood for roofing. So wood, it's used to produce the timber that we use to build the roof. That triggers some environmental impact. Sand, it's used to mix with cement to put together a mud that glues up the concrete bricks together. That triggers an environmental aspect as well. We also use what? We use water to mix the sand and the sand and the cement together. That triggers an environmental impact as well. What else do we use? We use basically, those are the core ingredients for a house to stand and to show that it's a complete house. You know, you have the roof, you have the concrete bricks that are put together by cement and sand. You have the water that that is being used to put together the cement and sand. And just look into how much of those we need to have the house constructed, and start to look into how the idea of building a house is coming through in terms of minimizing all of these things. I see now aluminum is being used to build houses. They use aluminum to build the entire shell, to build the windows, to build the roof, and also install solar panels. And the house can fold. It can fold and can be loaded on a truck to the customer. When it gets to you as a customer, it will be offloaded and then unfolded and assembled sort of into a complete house. So that's where the future of house construction is going. So look into those core aspects that I've mentioned that puts together the current traditional housing that we're building, and you will definitely find a loophole, a gap on where to innovate. Somewhere there is a problem that needs to be solved, because there's someone who's digging sand somewhere without considering the EIAs, which are the environmental impact assessments that were done around that area. So people just go and dig sands and start mining the sand around those areas without going through the relevant assessments which were done around such areas. And then eventually it conflicts with what the assessment has done or the results of the assessment, and you end up having problems. Mostly government ends up with problems and challenges around there. So that is another gap where you can go and play around your approach in terms of coming up with an innovative solution around them. It's very, very important. And the next one, I have seen that there's a World Cup coming in. We have World Cup in 2026 in the USA. I I think USA and Mexico are co-hosting. And then after the World Cup in 2026, I think we're going to have another World Cup in 2030. So, yeah, World Cup is four years apart. So you're going to have another World Cup in 2030. So the World Cup will be hosted in Saudi Arabia. So Saudi Arabia, they are building a new, should I say, a fleet of stadiums. Yeah, for a lack of a better way. They are building a bunch of stadiums to prepare for the 2030 Soccer World Cup. One of the stadiums they're building, it's a stadium that is going to be floating. So it's a floating stadium. So the stadium is going to be 350 meters above the ground. I don't know how they're going to build that. I don't know. I have no idea. But the stadium will be floating on the air, 350 meters above the ground. That confirms the earlier point that I made about the future of house construction. I think we need to learn a lot from that construction. Once the construction is completed, let's go and review the entire construction. How was the stadium built? How was it taken up from the ground? How was it elevated? What method and systems did they use for the stadium to float? And apparently the stadium is going to be one of the state-of-the-art high level of AI systems installed around the entire stadium. Everything is just going to be touch and go, you know. I'm not sure whether the stadium is going to shake. I don't know. So we need to learn from that stadium. That stadium is going to be an entry into the future of construction. And that's how we're going to start to see what I'm talking about and come up with innovative ideas around it. And this confirms that there is an avalanche still, again, of ideas that we sleep on and we don't pay attention to. Recently, in South Africa, in the past 5 to 10 years, people have been picking up waste across the streets, especially metal waste. People have been picking up metal waste. This involves scrap material from scrap yards where vehicles are being fixed and accident involved vehicles have been collected. People have been collecting scrap from those type of sites, and then people have been collecting metal waste across the streets in the form of tin, and all those waste they are being taken for in exchange for cash. So they take them to some kind of scrap yard to weigh, and then the weight of your material or the weight of your waste will determine how much you get in return or in exchange for that particular waste. So the economy, I'm gonna speak for the country specifically that I live in. The economy sort of took a bit of a change or a bit of a new approach towards that, to say people are now making a living out of waste. People are now making a living out of picking up tins and things across the streets. You know, you will never throw away a tin okay, you cannot have a thrown away tin for about an hour in the streets roaming around. That tin will be picked up within 5 minutes. It will be picked up. In South African streets, you will never find tins lying around. Never, ever. You will probably find them collected and put somewhere in a yard for them to be taken for to a scrap yard to be weighed. So we have recently started making a living out of picking up waste in the streets. This tells us that there's money in waste, and there's a whole lot of it, and we are sleeping on it. Not only as South Africans, but as a global community, we are sleeping on waste. And a little bit later, towards the end of this video, I'll share an initiative that we came up with, and we're working towards helping around that waste management challenges. But there's something again. there's a plant. There's a plant called Hodia godoni. Hodia. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right or I'm pronouncing it correctly. I'll go search for it and search for the pronunciation, the correct pronunciation of the word. Hodia, Hodia. Godoni, it's Gordo, Godonia or Godoni, Gordin, Hodia godoni. This plant was used by ancient Khoisans. Ancient Khoisans are mostly found, or were mostly found in the southern part of Africa. They are apparently the first to populate the southern tip of Africa, and the Khoisans use this plant to suppress hunger. And if they feel hungry, they would go and harvest this plant in the field and eat on this plant to suppress the hunger. Much as the plant does that, it also helps them to lose weight. Most important. So you suppress the hunger, at the same time you lose weight. Remember, your metabolism or your biological system works on habits. So if you do not focus more on if your food intake it's minimized, your body tends to eat on its own fat, its own lipids, and then you lose weight as such. So that plant, it's used to suppress hunger. So when you consume that plant, you don't really feel the hunger. And then at the same time, because it's like the substance that you get from chewing that plant convince the body that you have eaten something sustainable, and then the hunger goes away somehow, and your body, because there's no food in the stomach, then the body starts to eat on the fat. So you're more like forcing the body to start consuming on its own fat, such that you can lose the weight. So they use Hodia godoni to lose weight by suppressing hunger, and this is what happened. But hey guys, we don't know these things because we don't read and we don't learn. There's a whole lot of things that we can innovate around plants that we know. There's a whole lot of people who knows plants across the globe. They know different types of plants. They know which plants does, and you can actually come up with an innovation that could change the entire perspective of health. People are struggling with weight these days. People are paying more money to affiliate with gyms and subscription for gyms, but at the end of the day, weight, it's not an easy thing to lose. So you need to have discipline for you to be able to lose weight. So there's an agency, I'm not sure if this is called an agency or not, in South Africa called CSIR. CSIR is Center for Science, Science, what's the I stand for? But R stands for research. Center for Science, what is the I for? I forgot what the I stands for. CSIR, the headquarters are in Pretoria, South Africa. CSIR, Center for Science, Outward Research. It will come through. So the CSIR team took the Hodia godoni plant, did some research on it, worked on the plant, and they isolated the P57 ingredient of the plant. They isolated that plant, then they patented the P57 ingredient and sold it to Pfizer. We all know Pfizer, right? Pfizer, they work with pharmaceuticals and stuff like that. So CSIR isolated that ingredient, patented it, and sold it to Pfizer. I don't know for how much. I don't want to speculate. I don't know for how much. So apparently that is what happened. That's what apparently happened. The CSIR went, did some research on the plant that I'm talking about, and then they isolated the P57 ingredient and sold it to Pfizer.
Think about the number of plants that you know, the environment that you live in around your area. There's so many plants that I myself know, but I don't know what ingredients does the plant contain. And should I find out that there's certain plants that contain certain ingredients which perform certain which gives certain benefits to your health, then I might as well do as CSIR has done, do a little bit of research on the plant, find out what are the ingredients, find out what the ingredients or the substances does to a human health, then do whatever that I have to do in terms of patents and all of that, and sell the patents to whoever, So it might be Pfizer, it might be Johnson & Johnson, we don't know. So find those plants and find out what the plants does, and you will find a way to innovate around it. Guys, we're sleeping on a lot of things. So we're sleeping on so many things that we shouldn't be struggling economically as Africans. Because I know Africans know a lot of plants. They know a lot of plants that can actually change the entire perspective of human health. You can actually play a role in the pharmaceutical industry simply by understanding the types of plants that you live around in your environment. That's one thing that I've noticed. So there's other areas like pollution. Pollution is the biggest challenge that we have in the world. Our rivers are highly polluted. The level of pollution in the oceans is out of this world. As a result, we are harming the life that lives under the ocean. And this is a problem. So can't you just look into that space, pollution on the rivers and the oceans? That alone, you can actually come up with an entire innovation that's going to deal with pollution around that. Then there's a pollution in the sky where we emit a lot of carbon dioxide, which is CO2. In general, we just call them GHGs, like greenhouse gases. GHGs is greenhouse gases. So we emit a lot of GHGs. GHGs consist of different gases in it. There's one of them is carbon dioxide that we usually know. So you can go and find out what other gases are there in the GHG family or group, and then you will actually be able to pick that there's these gases that we emit, and these gases are not good for our skies. So when we emit these gases, they pollute the sky in a way that they aggravate the exothermic reaction in the sky. So there's a process called exothermic reaction. Exothermic reaction happens in the sky where gases react to each other. And if carbon dioxide is emitted to the sky and it reacts with other gases in our ozone layers, then the whole process emits a lot of heat towards the earth. That's when people start to talk about global warming. So it's as a result of the process called exothermic reaction caused by pollution. Can't we just look into that and just work around that to say what pollutes the rivers, what pollutes the oceans? Then come up with that innovative solution to curb such pollutions. Then you have come up with a solution that's gonna become a fully fledged business that employs people to work towards solving that particular problem. So you are solving a problem, a pollution problem. You're also solving an employment problem, specifically for us in this country. Another one is household waste. Household solid waste is the biggest problem we have in this country. We don't know how to manage it. Municipalities are spending around, I remember in 2017 alone, the municipalities, they spent an average of 217 million rands, specifically around the household solid waste management. This involves the trucks that are picking up waste from your household. landfill sites where the waste that they've picked up from your communities is being dropped. And that waste as well still have a lot of emissions that it emits. When it's hot, that particular waste that is being dumped in the landfill site emits a lot of CO2s as well, emits a lot of GHGs basically. So that is another area where we can innovate. You can start from the households themselves. Look into that space and you will definitely come out with a fully fledged, credible and sustainable business out of that. Another problem, it's ocean acidification. I think I spoke about this a little bit in one of the previous episodes. Ocean acidification is when the ocean absorbs the CO2 that we emit. So it's either we emit the CO2 by burning specific materials, or we cut the trees. So when you cut the tree is going to emit the CO2. When the tree starts to die out, the leaves starts to die out, the CO2 comes out of that tree. Where does it go? It goes somewhere. And wherever it's going to cause a problem. So unfortunately, the seawater is able to absorb all of that CO2 from the trees. And it causes the problem in the water. So when the water gets a lot of CO2 that it absorbs, the water becomes acidified. Ocean acidification simply means the pH level of the water, it's no longer on 7. pH 7 means the water is neutral. So it's no longer on 7. It's not neutral anymore. So it's either it's above 7 or it's below 7. If it's below 7, then the water becomes alkaline, meaning it's not conducive for the life. Even yourself, you cannot drink that particular water. So think about the life that lives under that water, because the water is alkaline. If it goes above 7, the water becomes acidic. Means it becomes toxic to the life that lives under. So the life that lives under the water needs the water to be on its pH level, neutral pH level, which is 7. That is a problem on its own. So can't we find a way to regulate this? Maybe come up with, there's so many things, man, that we can do. Come up with systems that can detect the level of CO2, maybe absorb the CO2 before it gets absorbed by the ocean. Then you've come up with a solution, a disruptive innovation that's going to create jobs, number one. It's going to save life underwater. Then it's going to save the oceans, you know. Then lastly, it's one that a lot of people take for granted. Office ergonomics. I'm not sure if you guys are aware about something called office ergonomics. Think about the number of offices across the world. And all of these offices have got people working in them. And these people that work in these offices, they need to be exposed to some kind of conducive environment for them to work in. And that environment involves lighting, it involves sitting, it involves breathing. So the air that they breathe, is it clean? Including the water as well. The water that they drink, is it clean? The chairs that they sit on, are they comfortable enough? Are they supportive enough? Are they supporting their backs enough? The lights in the offices, are they bright enough? Because some offices, the lights are brighter than it's supposed to be, you know? And it damages a lot. It affects a lot of the employees that works in those offices as health. Most of the employees join those specific offices being healthy, but when they leave, whenever they leave with ill health because of the office ergonomics. So if you are not aware of, you were not aware of something called office ergonomics, just go search what office ergonomics is. You will definitely come up with an idea. You don't need to look at the entire global warming problem and say, I'm going to face this alone and then I'm going to do it. Because we live in Africa. I will speak for ourselves. We live in Africa. And Africa on its own, alone, just one continent, has got too many problems. And most countries in Africa are third world countries. Third world countries are countries which by definition or generally, they are just, they are developing countries. So their economies are still developing, their technologies are still developing, their infrastructure are still developing. So those kind of countries are being classed as third world countries. Like South Africa is a third world country, but inside this third world country, there's some part of the country which is first world already. That doesn't mean South Africa is first world. You understand? You talk about cities like Cape Town, it's first world. Cities like Sandton is first world. You know, cities like Polokwane, it's first world. You know, I know a lot of people are going to argue with me there on that one, but it is first world. So we need to understand the approach that we need to take as people that lives in the third world country. Just because there's few cities which are first world doesn't mean the entire country is first world. So we cannot be coming up with first world solutions in the third world country. So a third world country needs third world solutions. So come up with solutions that are going to talk to the third world problems. For example, I spoke about pollutions. There's a river that runs behind us here. The river is totally polluted. When you cross the river, number one, there's a bad smell. Number two, there's waste everywhere along the river banks. So that is a problem. It's a third world problem. It means the waste management or the household solid waste management in that particular area is bad. So we need to innovate on that. Come up with a solution that's going to deal with that. That's a third world problem in the third world country. Deal with that, then you've dealt with a third world problem. Eventually we'll transform into a first world country, whereby our rivers are clean, our cities are clean, everything is clean, everything is state of the art, you know, basically. So me and my team, we have come up, like I said previously, that our job in my company is to go out and find problems in our communities, and we come up with those problems. We come back with those problems to come up with solutions that matches those problems, and then we start working towards building those solutions to innovate and disrupt the entire system, you know. So we have come up with an innovation called Smart Skip Bin. So our Smart Skip Bin, it's going to work in all communities across the country. Look out for more information around the Smart Skip Bin. The Smart Skip Bin will be hitting your towns or your communities very soon. You're going to start utilizing the bins, and the bins will be interacting with you as the users as well. So it's going to be a fun way of managing waste, especially the household solid waste, such that we can cap pollution, we can cap, you know, all of those things that I've mentioned. So look out for Smart Skip Bin. For more details, if you're interested in working with us, maybe you want to invest into the project, the Smart Skip Bin project, you can hit me up on the comment section, then I'll share details with you, and then we'll see how to work together going forward. So this particular initiative for disruptive innovation has participated in a program called Global Clean Tech Innovation Program, South Africa. So Global Clean Tech Innovation Program, it's a global, like the name says, it's a global program that has a couple of countries participating in it, and South Africa is one of those countries that participate in the GCIP. And last year, 2024-25, I became in the top 8 in South Africa, top 8 innovations that are going to change the face of our economy through the Smart Skip Bin. So if you're interested, especially those who want to invest, I'm inviting you to come and have a word with me, so we can push this thing forward and start implementing wherever we need to implement. But the work is underway, everything is underway, we're working towards that. So that is the Smart Skip. You see this certificate here on the wall. This certificate, this is the GCIP certificate that I got when we became in the top 8 nationally. So we're working towards that. So if you also have an idea that you're going to work on, especially on the things that I've mentioned, the things that I've listed, you can go into the GCIP website and apply for the program. They've already taken a cohort for this year, which is going to end probably the beginning of 2026. And then in 2026, they will open the call for the next cohort. So you'll be ready for the next cohort, then you apply, then they'll take you through the program. Very intense and interesting program to be part of. And don't sleep on this one. Go into the GCIP website and then learn more about it and apply in the next cohort, because 2025 cohort is already underway. So that is that for today, and I'll see you next week. Next week.